What's up, guys? It's Ryan with Elevate Security, and today I wanted to talk about, it was on my mind, what is, without a doubt in my mind, the number one tool to learn if you want to get into pen testing. By far, I would say, and I would even go as far as to say that if all you knew was this tool, like if this was the only tool you knew how to use, I'm pretty confident that you could get at least an entry level position in pen testing. It's really that good, and really that versatile and high in demand in this field. And that tool is Burp Suite. Now, this is a tool that it comes in a few different flavors. In the corporate world, you'll see it in the Pro version, Burp Pro. But there's also a community edition. And really, when you're starting out, like say you're aspiring to become a pen tester, you're not in the field already, just picking up the free community version, because the Pro version is paid, by the way, just picking up the free community version and learning that really well is going to go an extremely long way. Now, yes, there is certain functionality with Burp that you only get in the Pro version that you don't get in the community version. But then there's also some things like it just simply throttles it in the community version. You still have access to it, but it's slower. But even still, it's very richly featured even in the community edition, such that you could actually learn a lot about pen testing, and you could really position yourself to be able to market yourself well in job interviews and stuff like that. In every single job interview that I've been in, they always ask, pen testing related, they always ask about my skill level with Burp Suite and what I've done with it and stuff like that. And that's where I can really sell myself well. Now, if you're not familiar, what is Burp Suite, right? Burp Suite is a proxy tool. It's sort of it sort of sits in between you and the web server, or you and whatever server you're testing, and it sits as like kind of man in the middle, and it allows you to proxy. So it's like a man in the middle kind of proxy tool, not really for carrying out man in the middle attacks, but I just say man in the middle as in it's sitting in between you and the server that you are testing. So with this proxy tool, basically what it allows you to do is intercept HTTP requests and respond. It doesn't even have to be HTTP, right? But it just allows you to intercept requests and responses to and from the server. Now, what is this really good for? Well, it's good for a lot of things, really, and it's such a all-encompassing tool that can do so much that it's kind of hard to even summarize, but I'll try my best here. Really, what it can do, what you would do commonly with it in the pen testing space, say you got an entry-level job or whatever, it allows you to see what the raw requests look like with what, say like you're testing HTTP, you're testing a website, right? You can see what the actual HTTP requests that you send to the server look like, and you can see what the responses are like. So what this is really good for, one thing that it's really good for, is bypassing client-side validation. So if developers try to patch vulnerabilities only on the client side, like only in the browser, well, after your browser, does whatever processing they coded it to, through the JavaScript to process, it then sends a request to the server, an HTTP request. Now, before it even gets to the server, you can tamper with the data in that request. So you can fuzz parameters, you can send it some kind of bogus data, right? You can change values of parameters. You can even try and guess parameters. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff, right? You can change the cookies. You can, add anything to the header. You can pretty much do whatever you want with the request. So the only way that this can be, they can make it safe against this kind of tampering is to have, the back end validation, not just client side. So a lot of times, especially nowadays when everything is so JavaScript based, everything is so much on the front end, right? With the like React and all of that Angular, all that stuff nowadays, sometimes developers forget about the back end and just how important it is to secure that. So that's where a tool like Burp Suite can really come in handy. Another thing is if you need to try and brute force something or fuzz parameters, there's a functionality in Burp called the intruder, and that allows you to pick what parameters you want to fuzz and then give it word lists, and you can actually try and brute force stuff and see if it's vulnerable. Make sure that the developers are doing their due diligence with validation, not just front end validation, but validating it on the back end. What else? The repeater is another really big one. Allows you to take a request and replay it a bunch of different times. You can keep changing parameters and see if that affects the response that you get back from the server. So maybe you test for SQL injection in a parameter, and you keep changing that parameter and resubmitting the request over and over and see if you can get it to throw some kind of SQL error. So really, Burp Suite especially shines when you're testing web apps. It doesn't have to be limited to that, because you can intercept tools from even on different protocols other than HTTP, right? You can intercept your Nmap scans and dissect those, and SQL map and all kinds of different tools. It's not limited to HTTP, but that's one area where HTTP, testing web apps is really going to shine when it comes to that. That's where you're really going to be, if you can learn how to do that, and you can understand through the process of learning Burp Suite, you're going to learn a lot about web app pen testing. You're going to learn a lot about web app vulnerabilities, validation, like making sure they're properly validating all their parameters. That's something that, you can easily test with Burp. And that is so all-encompassing, because so many vulnerabilities rely on sort of poor validation of the data. Cross-site scripting, poor validation of the data. Server-side request forgery, poor validation, right? SQL injection, kind of same thing. So many things stem off of this. And there's a lot more. That's just to name a few. CRLF injection, right? Like all kinds of crazy stuff, right? So this allows you to test for a vast majority of web application-based vulnerabilities in a very streamlined manner. So yeah, I will be making further videos on Burp Suite as we continue on this video journey here. Definitely plan on transitioning to more technical side, where I show you inside the application itself, hands-on, how to use this tool, giving you the rundown on that. So definitely stay tuned and subscribe for that content. And let me know if there's any questions down in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next video.